As a group, we choose the objective of equality of education in the country of Brazil and Peru, and that is why we will talk about. The next, please. Lack of access to education. In Brazil, it's worrying since 40.8% of Brazilian students aged 6 and 7 didn't learn to read and write in 2021. So according to the Brazilian Institute of Geography and Statistics, demonstrated a notable lack of access to school or college due to the lack of economy or home infrastructure to learn from home that numbers are taking during the pandemic. Unfortunately, the poorest children of the Black test are most affected, since 47.7% of the first and second grade children don't know how to read or write, denouncing the economic gaps. The problem in Peru is also due to the family economy that directly affects the students, and it has been identified that there is a 6.03% schools dropout, according to the figures from the Minister of Education, Minedu, of young people between 70 and 80 years old who have not been able to complete their secondary education. Likewise, the illiteracy figures are 1.3 million people aged 15 and over in rural areas. It's rising to 22.8% for women. Lastly, the cost of education has increased because, according to the World Bank, by 2021, the average cost of secondary education in the country was 8.3% of average per capita income, and the average cost of higher education was 60.2%. And to continue with the next topic, we see that in both countries, access to education denotes a big problem affecting mostly people, or in this case, the poorest children who don't have enough money to be able to carry out their studies.
Okay, so now I will explain about the poor quality of education. First, in Peru, main barriers towards high quality education are poor infrastructure, inadequate learning materials, outdated curricula, and a lack of well-trained teachers. According to the World Bank, Peru spent 3.3% of its GDP on education in 2013. But in the second point of view, COVID impact, according to the World Economic Forum, Peru ranked 27 in quality of the educational system for 2020 compared to 24th in 2019. COVID presented the large shock to Peru educational system in the last 100 years. By the way, in Brazil, in November 2020, over 5 million girls and boys aged 6 to 17 didn't have access to education. In Brazil, over 40% of whom were children aged 6 to 10, and age group in which education was practically universalized. Before the pandemic, the numbers are alarming and are cause for urgent concern. And then, in terms of the current education system in Brazil, although primary education is made compulsory to everyone because public education is still of very poor quality. And then, in terms of areas such as infrastructure, teachers, and resources too. Okay.
Okay, now I'm going to talk about infrastructure deficiencies in Brazil and Peru. Insufficient school buildings in many schools in Brazil lack proper infrastructure, including classrooms, libraries, laboratories, and administrative facilities. Overcrowded classrooms hinder individual attention. Dilapidated buildings pose to safety risks. Limiting access to technology, a significant number of schools lack computer labs, internet connectivity, and necessary digital tools. Also in Peru, Peru faces several challenges related to education infrastructure, including inadequate facilities, insufficient technology and equipment. Insufficient technology and equipment, according to a 2018 report by the Ministry of Education, only 47% of schools in Peru have access to computers and just 31% access to the internet. The report also noticed that the access to technology is particularly limited to rural areas. Limited access to electricity and water, approximately 11% of schools in Peru lack access to electricity, and 60% do not have access to potable water, according to 2019 report by the INEE. The regions that are the highest proportion of schools without access to electricity water are Apurímac, Huancavelica, and Ayacucho.
Okay, I'm gonna talk about providing access to education for marginalized communities. The indicators of low learning achievements, as well as at high rates of repetition, average, and dropping, reflects the urgencies of rethinking the educational service in this sector of the country. In order to improve its quality and generate greater social culture relevance, in the sense of addressing the characteristics, needs, and opportunities of the students and the particularities that demand the rural area. The government implements the following points. Respect Peru. Expansion of the coverage of education service to girls and boys under the age of 6 years, and the prioritization of guidance and support service for families to strengthen parenting practice and opportunities for learning. Another point, well-being conditions that ensure the achievement of learning and the educational trajectory, like improve the quality of education spaces so that they respond to the students' needs, promoting an infrastructure according to the considerations of minimum standards required for rural reality. Respect Brazil. The government has invested in programs to improve the quality of education in rural areas, such as the Nationality Program for Education in Agrarian Reform, or Pronera, which assigns to promote education and quality of life for settled families. Another point, creation of secondary school in rural areas. These schools have contributed to improve the quality of life and education for people living in rural areas. For last point, transport students for free. Thank you.
So for resolve this problem of improving infrastructure, we have, as a government, we have to increase the government foundation for school infrastructure and development and maintenance. And for the insufficient technology and equipment, increase the government investment in technology infrastructure and schools, including computers, internet connectivity, and educational software. And the last, limited access to electricity and water. We have to develop renewable energy solutions such as solar power electricity to provide electricity to schools in remote areas, increasing the government investment in water infrastructure to ensure that all schools have access to potable water, and also promote public-private partnership to support the development of electricity and water infrastructure in schools.
Infographic about the education in Brazil, about the instruction of people that have 25 years old or older. No instruction is about 6.4%, with the high school incomplete 32.2%, with the high school complete 27.4. Oh, sorry. With the sorry guys. And the graduation incomplete 4%, and the graduation complete 17.4%.
Una eternidad más tarde.
Okay guys, I'm back. As you can tell, the Zoom call failed on us, and I didn't get a chance to present. So here it is. The topic we were talking about are the Sustainable Development Goals, and these goals were planned by the UNESCO in 2015 in order to ensure that by 2030 all people enjoy peace and prosperity. Now, why should we know about these? Because actions in one area will affect the outcomes in others. And there has to be a balance in social and economical and environmental topics. All of this impacts us in Brazil. Mainly, this goal is taken by the government, which allows many kids to achieve their dreams of studying and completing high school. In Peru, by taking conscience, we will be able to offer students a better education and improve common knowledge. Now, how can we help to empower this goal? The quality of education is a very, very important topic, and by helping around in our communities, we can start to make a change in many kids' lives. As you can tell, we chose topic number 4, which is quality of education. The first aspect is lack of access to it. Many people don't have the opportunity to study due to insufficient funds, because as you know, both in Peru and Brazil, the private schools are too costly for many families to afford, and the education that is served in public schools isn't as great as those in private, therefore creating a big difference in the standard of education. Oops, sorry. Okay, so aspect number 2 would be the poor quality of education. During the pandemic in both countries, the education dropped, affected many students, mostly in rural areas. As you can remember, the pandemic, we had virtual classes, meaning that some kids weren't able to access these because of the internet that didn't work well, or their service wasn't as good. So that created a major breach between the kids that did and didn't have access to the education during these times. The third aspect would be infrastructure deficiencies. Most schools don't offer the basic needs that will help students to enhance their learning. As you know, some schools don't have access to internet or water services, or don't have great infrastructure, meaning that most schools fall down or get shut down by the government because they don't provide a safe environment for the children. Our fourth topic would be education for marginalized communities. Most kids in rural areas don't have schools in their communities and therefore can't access education nor complete secondary education. Basically, some have to travel a long way in order to get these studies, and many people don't have the capability of doing that. So they can't access education, not much less a higher level. Finally, a short reflection. The more we learn about these detrimental topics, we will be more capacitated to help those who need it. If we learn a lot about how we can help the community and our closest friends to get a better education, we can share that knowledge with others. So we start changing the world person by person. And that'll be all. Thank you.